and Josh. All right. So everybody have the capability to share screen, video, and it's 6 o'clock, 6:01 now. So Frank, um, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, just wanted to see the participants. Steve, shall I get started or do you want to wait a minute or two?
We have about 30 here and 6:02, and all your team is here, and it's a recorded meeting. I say go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, everyone who is on this virtual call, I'd like to welcome you this evening to our outreach meeting. Tonight, I have with me people from Starbucks as well as our consulting team. From the Starbucks team, I have Dee and Tim who are in the real estate side, as well as Sarah, and then Josh Smith is our operations director for the region. I also have our traffic engineer, Renee, with me. And my name is Frank Coda. I'm the architect for the project. So the purpose of tonight really is for us to, describe our project, let you know the plans for that. I know there's the flyer. I've got some plans I'm going to share in a moment or so, and then really just take comments, listen to everybody's concerns and issues. I have been seeing the emails that have been being sent, that some of them I was on because my contact information, as you can see at the bottom of the flyer, this is me, Frank Coda. Also on the call, Steve Lee. He's the senior planner with the city of Santa Clara. He's here really to listen to the neighborhood meeting. And again, if anybody has any things they wish to discuss directly with Steve, you're going to need to contact him at either the email or the phone number that's given on the flyer. I'll also put this back up in a little bit. What I'd like to do, I know there's some folks that probably want to get going on speaking. I kind of want to limit, if it's okay, your speaking to 2 or 3 minutes. I am having someone going to keep time on that just so that we can get through everyone. I want to make sure everyone has a chance to be heard. And with that, those are kind of my ground rules for tonight's meeting. With that, I'm going to kind of go into my brief description. I'm going to start with the aerial. This is obviously Google Earth. This is the site, 3575 Stevens Creek. This street is Herald. And of course, this one here is Stevens Creek Boulevard. Just in context, we have this residential area over here, as I'm sure many people are from there. I did see some folks living off of Herald as well. We have right down Herald on one side of the street is these, they're kind of commercial. I think there's a school in there as well. There's this alley that dead ends right into the current site today. And it looks like majority of the access has been closed off, or at least chained off from at least when I've been out there. So that's the site that we're talking about. I did want to speak to the existing building. The existing building is 7,266 square feet. And the parking that's provided on that site today is about 26. There's probably 4 underneath in the covered carport, and then based on the Alta survey that we did, there's another 22. So we got 26 parking spaces on the site. Here's that alley I was talking about. Obviously, Harold and Stevens Creek. The next view, this is our proposed site plan. I'm going to switch over to the landscape plan just because there's a lot of stuff on this to to see it, but in very light, you can see the existing building that's there today. And so our proposed site plan, this is our landscape plan that is a little bit clearer to read. We're going to have a 2,300 square foot Starbucks cafe with a drive-through. Our drive-through entry is off of Herald. It's 2 drive-through lanes with 2 order points merging to 1 to be picked up at the pickup window here. The Herald access, this is for the parking lot. This is a full in and out driveway separated from the drive-through entry. And then the entry off of Stevens Creek, this is just in only, so people cannot or will not be allowed to exit out onto Stevens Creek. So everyone will be, this is pretty much a right in. I think I've seen some comments about trying to make that left in the Herald, and I think that's also part of the reason why we see this as really just a right in for Stevens Creek, people traveling this direction. In addition to that, I just wanted to show you the floor plan for the cafe. Stevens Creek is along the bottom. We have a cafe area here, some outdoor seating along the street, and again, back to the drive-through bump. The elevations, again, this you kind of saw in the 3-dimensional version of it. This is the 2-dimensional version of these elevations of the building that we've proposed. And the last item, we did have our traffic engineer do some traffic engineering. I believe Steve has posted this traffic memo from our traffic engineer. Renee's here with us tonight. That is on the city website, correct, Steve? I believe you told me you posted it there. And so the only thing of note as part of my presentation was our traffic engineers when they've looked at the current building, and if that current building was to be re-tenanted versus a Starbucks drive-through, the end of the day, our traffic engineers are saying that there would be approximately 47 more daily trips. Now, just for those that are not used to traffic reports, trips are two trips is 1 car. In other words, the way traffic engineers do things, 1 trip is a car going in, and 1 trip would be a car going out. So our 47 more trips turns into basically 24 more cars for the day. The AM peak hour does increase again by 76 trips or 38 cars, but in the PM peak, we actually are going to be less cars by 11. So I just wanted to give an overview of the traffic engineering aspect from what is called trip generation, or how it compares to the existing building should it be re-tenanted. That pretty much concludes my brief presentation. I have any of these plans if you'd like me to pull them up. At this point, what I'd like to do is sorry about that. Use the raise the hand for those who would want to talk. And sorry, my computer skills can be lacking. So I'm just gonna go right now. I see a couple, 3 hands. So if that's okay with everyone, I'm gonna start at the top. Rob Mezziti, I'm gonna probably horrible times. I'm gonna put you on the speaker. Rob, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's Robert Mazzetti is my last name, Mezzetti. I live off of Herald. I've lived here my entire life. I'm 68 years old. I have a number of family members that also live on the same block and a couple blocks away. I'm sure it's no secret to you that the neighborhood is not happy about having a drive-through there on right on Harold, particularly with the entrance and the exit going onto Harold. That we feel is going to create a huge problem with safety, with traffic. There's a lot of children, there's a lot of families in this neighborhood. And I can't imagine that you didn't think that that would negatively affect our neighborhood by putting a double drive-through there. I just wanted to voice our opposition to that. It's a huge opposition of everybody that I've spoken with. So what our request would be absolutely no drive-through, and just have a nice Starbucks there, which we would really appreciate, by the way.
And I did see again, there seems to be, I'm sure we're here throughout the night, but yeah, there seems to be the issue of Harold, which I can understand. And I guess I understand the no drive-through. There was a couple of people, and they'll hopefully will speak, but there was an opportunity, perhaps, if we had all the access off of Stevens Creek and no access on Harold, if that would be something that would possibly work for the neighborhood. And Rob, I guess, I know you said no drive-through, but would that be something palatable, or just no, not at all?
Well, we'd rather not have that. I mean, there are also houses behind there that are going to, a lot of families, people that I know that are going to be affected by cars idling there. But it just seems to me that if you're going to have a drive-through, the entrance should be from Stevens Creek, and if there has to be an exit onto Harold, it should be no right turn, and so they'd have to turn left to go back to Stevens Creek. I mean, we really would like you to leave our neighborhood alone.
Understood. Yeah, and I think if we did, to your point, if we did revise the site plan, I actually think that would start to deal with, the location of the order points. Although I am confident we could do an acoustic study and do mitigation measures, but I'd rather try and solve it as a whole. So
appreciate that.
Okay.
Are there any problems with having the entrance on Stevens Creek?
There has been some discussion with the city on that, and so again, I guess I'd like to take all the comments, and maybe there's a plan that comes of all this that works for everyone. That's my hope, right? So,
all right,
if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Council member Anthony Becker.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this on tonight. I actually have been speaking to a lot of the residents that reside around this area, and in fact, it became a topic at one of the last meetings for the Stevens Creek Corridor Steering Committee for the Stevens Creek Corridor. And it brings up a lot of concerns, especially for me after I spoke to a lot of these residents, and also I speak to some people in San Jose. One, I think I agree, it can create a traffic nightmare having a double drive-through. I know it's going to add the congestion. I know that there was some numbers provided there, but seeing how that gets in the morning hours, this seems like it's going to be kind of a nightmare. At the same time, though, I do see that, I'm not against a Starbucks. I just want to make that clearly, for sure, understandable. I'm not against a Starbucks, but the concerns from not only the residents and the city of San Jose is that the drive-through kind of is going to be contradicting a lot of what San Jose's policies are and their San Jose climate goals. So my question is, why compete with each other? And at the same time, the neighborhood, I believe, has spoken. I mean, Mr. Mazzetti just spoke before, and I mean, it's clear that the neighborhood doesn't want this double drive-through to be in this area because it's going to impact their neighborhood. Again, it goes back to the climate goals of more idling cars sitting at this location are going to create that contradiction to a lot of our climate goals, especially in this corridor, knowing that Stevens Creek is a very, very busy corridor. I'm going to compare it also to the Lawrence and El Camino Starbucks. A lot of people try to find alternative sources to going to that Starbucks, and they will do further distances to get to a drive-through Starbucks. So that is I understand the demand for a Starbucks and coffee. I'm 100% believe that this is a perfect location for a Starbucks. However, the climate goals of San Jose, their policies, I think it's contradicting what we're trying to achieve in our climate goals in the future. At the same time, I said this during the Stevens Creek Corridor Committee meeting, is that I think San Jose and Santa Clara, Cupertino, cities that align this corridor need to start having a sit down to have an audit on all of our policies, on our ordinances, to align not only to prevent contradicting climate goals, but also contradicting neighborhood goals. So I wanted to make sure I came here tonight to provide this information to you guys from what I'm hearing in the community, because my email has been on fire lately. And this is when my email goes off consistently and it's a concern in my neighborhood, especially my district, I have to address it. And when I see something that I agree with them on, especially a double drive-through that's going to be a concern, that's going to contradict climate goals, we got to find a solution rather than not listening to the community. So I just wanted to provide you guys that feedback, and I hope you guys make the right choice by making a different decision, by moving forward without a drive-through and providing a better opportunity for Starbucks. But the drive-through just is going to contradict a lot for us.
And thank you for that. And again, I think that's some of the purpose of tonight's meeting, is just to make sure we hear everything. I to be fair to everyone, traffic is an issue, and hopefully we can find a resolve that works for everyone. But that's, to your point, we're here to listen, and thank you for your comments. So
totally understand. Thank you guys for putting this on. Thanks, Frank.
Okay, I'm just going down the list. So I'm going to go to Rex. Rex, you need to, I guess, unmute. Has to unmute. Okay, maybe I'll come back to Rex. Shiri?
Hey, this is Shri.
Oh, Shri, thank you. Sorry.
No worries, Frank. Can you guys hear me all right? Looks like you can.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hey, I bought my home on Harold Avenue about a little over 4 years now. The reason why I bought it there, although it was visibly so close to Stevens Creek, was because it felt like a very safe, quiet neighborhood. And I chat standing across the street with my with my front door neighbor Ian. We're standing on the curb and chatting. My elderly father, who's 81 years old, goes for a walk up and down the street every morning. I walk my dog. Sometimes he runs out into the front yard. All in all, I love the peace and quiet of this neighborhood. What irks me very often is that I see people just barreling down the road. And sometimes these are work trucks, and they don't seem to have any attention to the posted speed limits. That's without a Starbucks. That's without a person who is craving their morning caffeine fix. Look, I love Starbucks. That's the only place I go to when I want to buy coffee outside. I don't go to Pete's. I buy food and coffee from Starbucks. And the Starbucks on Saratoga Avenue and San Tomas intersection, that serves me really well. I think that serves this neighborhood really well. It blows my mind that Starbucks thinks somehow it's commercially a great idea to put another Starbucks here, but I'll just leave that. They may have some really awesome algorithms that came up with the rationale to do this. But a Starbucks is a high volume destination, and it is drive through or not. I'm really opposed to that. I've been feeling very unsettled. This is my home. This is where I plan to retire and pass away if I'm lucky. And I don't want this to become a busy street with accidents and whatnot. Very recently, we had an accident on Stevens Creek, and I got to a preview, as it were, when traffic was diverted. It was horrendous. And even if it's only for a time window in the morning, I just don't think this is going to be the place that we all invested to live in, the people on Harold. It's very unfair if this gets shoved down our throats. That's really the way I'm seeing it. I mean, why Starbucks? Why can't it be some other low volume commercial joint? And that's what it was when I bought the house. And the drive-through, I mean, that's absolutely insane. Why not put the drive-through in some other, if drive-through is an absolute must in this vicinity, why not do it in the Saratoga location, for example? Why make this? In fact, I've been thinking if the city would somehow see how this street can be actually throttled down for traffic, period. And this is going in the opposite direction. So I'm very concerned. You know, I'm wearing my heart on a sleeve here, but because this is the home that this is my nest.
Well, one thing I've had other people talk about is maybe there needs to be some traffic calming measures on Harold, to your point, that there tends to be people moving pretty fast. So, I'm not going to speak to why, this property that came up for that's available. Obviously we're here with a proposal, but so my goal is to try and, like, for instance, traffic calming. I mean, that's something that could be part of our project that helps that issue. I'm trying to build a picture of what, I understand that many people may say, just, we don't want you at all. I understand that. My job as architect is to try and weed through all that and see if there is a solution that works for both the neighborhood and my client, right? So, but I have seen people talking about traffic calming measures or slowing the traffic down in Harold, especially with the school there. So I'm going to actually put that on my list as something that could be a benefit of a project being done here, if that makes sense to you. Not saying that you're supportive of it. I just tried to listen to what you had to say. So
yeah, traffic calming measures I think are important, period, on Harold Avenue, with or without Starbucks. I think with Starbucks takes it up many notches, but I've been hearing other ideas that my fellow attendees have presented, and I really think there's a lot of insight into it. Like, for example, not making a turn into Harold, you have to turn away from, or rather, you can only turn towards Stevens Creek if there was an exit on Harold, or making the entry and exit only on Stevens Creek, so on and so forth. I think those are all great ideas that definitely I would second, with or without a drive-through.
got it. Okay. Thank you very much. Rex, I'm gonna try you again.
Yes.
There we
Can you hear
go.
me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rex. I'm actually living right at the corner of Forest and Harold. I'm sorry that I saw the meeting was on Thursday, so I didn't actually read very detailed about the plan, but I think with your brief introduction, realized both entrance and exit are on Harold. Is that correct, right?
Yes, the drive-through entry is on Harold, and then a full in and out drive is on Harold as well. That's correct.
Okay.
Proposed.
And then,
Proposed.
I just want to make a personal observation. I haven't seen any Starbucks that has both entrance and exit drive-through on a residential street. I don't know anyone else seen that or not. So, but then again, I guess it is actually a commercial zone that, but I have been living here for the last 8 years, and I have seen so many cars passing through the Harold beyond the 25-mile speed limit. Okay, I hardly ever will you see a car that travel less than 25, unless like myself, I'm actually one that live on the street. All right, so that's one point, that observation that I made. And the second observation that I made is we have a Parkway Park right at the end of Forest, and there are a lot of pedestrians and children and dog walker, because it's a dog friendly park. going through the intersection, especially in the morning. And I'm really concerned if the traffic are coming from the north side of the Herald. And especially, oh, by the way, on the north side of the Herald, we have a very dense apartment building over there. So both sides of that narrow street Herald are parked. Both sides of the street are parked with a car. So if you actually have a car coming on that way, it's very difficult getting already. And now you got come to an intersection and people would just start like ramping up their speed after they, they get onto that narrow entrance from the north end of Herald. And guess what? You don't have a stop sign, and it's just almost like an invitation for them to just start accelerating toward the Stevens Creek. And I've seen that all the time because I just like, at a corner, and then I can actually see even through, outside my window. So that is a very big concern that I have with drive-through Herald. And I don't know. And then the other thing I want to ask is about the traffic engineering that we're talking about for those trips. How did those come about? I'm just curious. And what if the traffic is going to be over that, and what are we going to do about it? I mean, does the city actually think about that? I mean, was that a very accurate estimate? Given that it's a popular a destination. So I guess these are my observation and my question. All right.
Okay, that makes sense. I would say that for sure you'll want to at least go to the city website and download this memorandum. It gives you some of the background. We were not required to do a traffic study. However, again, I think after starting to get a feel for the issues at hand, we may be in for doing some sort of study at for the Herald and Stevens Creek intersections, because obviously it's important for that to work for us too, right? It does no good if if it doesn't work as well. So I'm gonna thank you, Rex. I'm gonna move on if you don't mind.
All right.
Thank you. Steve, can you hear us? I think you're.
Yeah, can you hear me?
There we go. Yep.
All right, great. So Rex is my neighbor. I live right next to him, and I've lived here all my life. Actually, the house that I lived in was my grandparents' house. So, and listening to some of the other people that were talking, I have the same feelings they have. This it brought up a good point. The school that's right there, the kids that are there, and what's going to happen is people are going to be coming from the Pruitt Ridge side into Herald, and then there's going to be a backup of line, and that's going to back up right where that school is, and that's just not going to work for them. And I've seen those little kids. They bring them down the street and down to the park, and you guys already have enough Starbucks all over the place. There's one on Saratoga. There's another one over on Saratoga there by Kylie. And there's another one at the mall. You guys are all over the place. There's no reason for you guys to put another one right there in a nice little neighborhood that's just going to cause a lot of problems. I mean, the traffic is already bad there. And matter of fact, that spot right there that we're talking about, nobody would stop and not block that intersection, even though there was a sign there. I went to the city about 5 years ago and said, hey, they're blocking this. We need to put lines out. It took them 1.5 years to put the lines out, but it got it done just so you could drive from Herald onto Stevens Creek and back in without traffic blocking it. During that time in the morning, it's all backed up, and then people are cutting and going, literally driving on the other side of Stevens Creek to get into the turn lanes. And it's a nightmare during the morning. And then you're going to add people wanting to get their coffee. You're going to have lines of cars backed up going both directions. And then we already have a problem with people speeding around and coming up my street, Brookside, and coming out into Stevens Creek because they're trying to get to wherever they're going in the morning. And I'm really upset about the fact that you guys want to put a Starbucks there in that corner. I really am, because there's just more than enough Starbucks around. And the fact that you're doing a drive-through is even worse, because this is going to create a lot of traffic. When I saw this flyer show up that it was going to be a Starbucks, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And to be honest with you, Frank, I'm just blown away by the fact that this big corporation wants to come in and put a Starbucks in a little area that's just, and you know, I enjoy your coffee, but it's just not a good location. It really isn't. And I'm just as upset as the rest of the people in the neighborhood that you're actually putting one there. Some people are okay with it because, you know, they like your coffee and it'd be nice to walk down around the corner. My daughter even told me that. She goes, oh, it'd be great. I could walk down there and get a coffee. Okay, that's great. I'm not real excited about you guys coming here, but if there was going to be a happy medium, I would say, you know, no drive-through. I mean, I'd be willing to settle halfway, but the drive-through has got to go. Definitely.
Okay. I mean, okay for your comment. Obviously, we got to work through it. I mean, to be fair, Stevens Creek is a pretty commercialized road, but I totally get what you're saying. So
we already have enough people speeding through our neighborhoods as it is, and I can just see people knowing that you're there and they're going to come flying from Prune Ridge up Harold, and we already have a traffic problem and a speeding problem going on. And people walk up and down Forest going to the park all the time. I mean, that's just like a big farrow field, and that's how they walk back and forth and get their exercise. Making Harold a main traffic area to get to your place to get coffee is going to be a bad idea.
yeah, I don't think that was in our plans to have Harold be the main way we get there, but I understand your point with traffic on Stevens Creek. So,
right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.
Surely. I think we're up to Keith Parks. Keith?
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Right. So I support the other comments that were made earlier. My concerns are, again, with the traffic. Having this establishment on that corner, especially with an entrance on Stevens Creek in the morning, is going to be a nightmare, because the morning commute trying to get to Lawrence Expressway, plus that's the bus route. So you're going to have traffic back up as traffic tries to get into the establishment. And that's going to be a problem, a severe problem. Plus, with a double driveway going into the establishment, when you think of volume, okay, you're doubling up your volume, and that's going to dump back out onto Harold. And these people are then going to attempt to turn back out onto Stevens Creek, hopefully, versus going down Harold. I don't know. I would truly support a full traffic study to see the impact on the community, because all I see is a lot of idling cars, I too have a concern with the daycare center traffic that's there in the morning that would be competing with access on the street. So now you're going to have concerned parents trying to get their kids dropped off while they're still trying to get to work themselves. It's not going to be a very tenable situation. And then I was trying to figure out your cost study that you must have done to say drive-through is justified on 100 cars a day. So I guess that would equate to $10 per purchase per car. So $1,000 a day based on that much investment into the parking lot for drive-through. Again, I think your traffic study's understated. I think the traffic will be much greater than that proposed 100 users per day. So get a legitimate traffic study done, environmental study, impact on the community. If there's mitigation that's needed to put down Harold, slow traffic down, it shouldn't be on us as the taxpayers of Santa Clara to pay for that. So if lights need to be installed at Prune Ridge and Harold, that should be on Starbucks. If similar lights need to be placed at Forest and Harold, again, that should not be on us. Speed bumps, traffic circles, whatever it is, that should not be put on the community. And if you're not getting the point, you can put your Starbucks there, but don't put no drive-through. Otherwise, just don't put it there. We have the one on Saratoga. It's handy. And for those that like to walk, you can go over to Valley Fair and have Starbucks over there. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. Sabrina?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi, I also live on Harold, down by Forest. And basically my concerns are pretty much what everybody else has said already. I just wanted to make them heard as well, that there's even more people concerned about this. The one thing with the speed problems, we've actually tried to talk to the city before about it, and there's really not much they're willing to do. And the drive-through, I would agree we shouldn't have a drive-through there. But if there has to be the drive-through, we can't have the turn on to Harold. Like everybody said, it gets backed up at Stevens Creek. People are gonna turn on to Harold and think that, oh, I'm gonna go all the way down to Prune Ridge so that I can bypass all that traffic. And that's gonna cause a lot of problems. As was said, like they said, there's people that are walking their dogs every day. I've stopped many times for people crossing the street. The preschool, the kids go for walks. It's just the traffic that's gonna end up coming down Harold because they don't want to deal with Stevens Creek is too much. We can't have an exit onto Harold from the Starbucks. So ideally, no drive-through, but if there has to be, that whole section of Harold has to be closed off. There can't be an entrance or exit on Harold. And that's all, basically.
Sorry, I'm just writing down your notes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marcella?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, first of all, thanks so much for the opportunity to present this information to the neighborhood. We greatly appreciate it. I've been living in this neighborhood now for 17 years. I live behind the Jiffy Lube, the pizza place, and the Pizza New York, and also the former JJ Blues. I live on Cypress, and so I get to see a lot of the traffic. I also had I was very fortunate to work with the city to help create traffic calming measures. And so I worked with the city on the roundabout as well as the striping on Cypress. And so I'm very grateful and appreciative that they were very willing to to listen to suggestions. This was back in 2009. I also remember when we had a coffee shop nearby, which was a Fireside. And I loved seeing all of our neighbors, especially our neighbors, our elderly neighbors who would go there. And it was an opportunity for them to interact with the neighborhood. And my children, my kids were born in this neighborhood. And so I think, I really like the idea of having a place where we can gather. At the same time, I do recognize the concerns of the folks that live on Harold Avenue. And I see an opportunity for us to work together to figure out how we can create some additional measures to make sure that that Harold is not impacted. I actually am from the mindset that I think that the entrance on Harold would work, but I really do think that the exit should be on Stevens Creek so that there's a quick exit and that, you know, folks can get out of there quickly, and that we should not have the ability for folks from Starbucks to make a right-hand turn onto Harold. I think that it should be strictly on the Stevens Creek side, but that's just my point of view. And then aside from that, I do want to say that just in general, without the Starbucks being there, overall, we do have a traffic issue on not only on Harold, but also on Cypress. But that exists regardless of whether or not Starbucks is there. And so maybe this is an opportunity for the city to work with us to see how we can figure this out. We do have more. When I first came here, we had like 3 or 4 kids in the neighborhood. And now we have many, many kids. And I love that. And I think that we should definitely be protecting, you know, their safety. So yeah, I would love to see the city work with us to see how overall we can help mitigate these traffic issues. And in regards to the elementary school that's there, the daycare, I think that's mainly a drop off. It's not they're not serving neighborhood kids, but nevertheless, just, you know, knowing that, you know, that there are kids that are getting dropped off there, we do have to be careful. And for those reasons, I support the idea of not having an exit on Harold and having it on Stevens Creek instead. Thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to hearing the outcome of our meetings today.
Thank you, Marcella. Okay, Cindy?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you, Frank, and your team. I'm Cindy Baldonzi, and I'm probably second to Steve, who you heard from, the oldest resident who has lived on Harold Avenue. I've been here 33 years, and I am also part of the South of Forest Neighborhood Association board, and I've been working with Tracy and so on, who you've seen some emails come through. I live midway down on Harold Avenue on the left-hand side, really less than probably 150 feet from the Starbucks. I've watched the traffic over the years, just especially the last 6 months on Harold. Harold has become really the major cut through. And I think that's part of what all the residents have been trying to say tonight is on Harold, that we've seen such a drastic increase. And what's happening, Frank, is in the mornings, San Tomas Expressway, which is the big expressway to the left over there. If you go to the left, that's San Tomas Expressway. It's a major thoroughfare that cuts across the city of Santa Clara. People branch off to go to the Apple campus and everything. That backs up in the morning. It takes a lot of people into the various high-tech areas that are north in Santa Clara, NVIDIA, et cetera. What's happening is people, when it backs up, of course, everybody loses patience in traffic and they want to cut off. So they will come down Tomas Expressway. They will make a right on Stevens Creek and then make a quick left on Harold and come flying down Harold. I have also been working with the city for many years with Tracy. We tried to put a 4-way stop at Forest and Harold, along with many of the residents you heard from tonight's support. Due to the park, the safety, worked on the committee with Tracy for putting sidewalks on this street, all of these streets, about 7 or 8 streets here in the South of Forest. So a lot of interaction. We just have wonderful residents in this area and wonderful residents on Harold who have joined this meeting tonight with their concerns and other streets of support. We're a very close neighborhood. The fact is that with this Starbucks, the entrance and exits of a double drive-through, they already come down this street in the morning at roughly anywhere from 35 to 40 miles an hour. When they realize they can cut through, it's a straight shot from Stevens Creek all the way to Prune Ridge. They don't even have to go down at Forest, and they don't, where Catherine and Rex live. They go all the way down to Prune Ridge Avenue, Frank, where they are dead ended and they have to make a left. They make a quick left and jump right back on San Tomas Expressway. Lots of concerns. The Nishimoto preschool is literally a stone's throw from me on Harold Avenue, very close to the owners. It's run by a Southern California. I know I'm going to use up my 2 minutes, but I'll try to be fast here. The kids are dropped off at 8:45 in the morning. There's 19 cars that pull up. And again, they're picked up between 2:45 and 3:50 in the afternoon. Very respectful preschool, run very well. They used to drop them off in the back, but now they pull up in the front, literally pull over to the curb where the teachers come out. They take the kids out of the car and bring them straight into the preschool. And they line up. We've worked with them for years. They're very, very polite, very respectful to the neighborhood. We also worked with them when they were going to put that into our neighborhood. I have seen a total of 14 accidents in my many years at the corner of Harold and Forest, 4 of which have been fatalities. And that is just in a residential street, not off a major, right at the corner where the Parkway Park is, where Steve was mentioning there on the left-hand side, a lot of residents where the people walk from our neighborhood there. Putting the Starbucks there with the drive-through, I'm not against a Starbucks. I'm personally, I'm not a Starbucks person, but that's okay. I respect the organization and how well they've done, but I'm against a drive-through. We've already been working with the city to calm this traffic on Harold. We tried to get a 4-way stop sign put in. As many of the residents on this call tonight know, spent a year of our lives trying to get a 4-way stop, and the city never would come through with a 4-way stop at Forest and Harold. So hence there's little bulb outs when they did these the sidewalks that tried to slow the traffic down, but it's not. And now that people realize they can cut off of San Tomas. The other thing, when you get to the end of Harold, if you're coming from northbound and you're going to turn on Stevens Creek, where Steve worked so hard to get those holdback lines, often people will come off of San Tomas Expressway. They'll come up like they're going to turn left on Harold, and they're literally making U-turns constantly. I don't know why, but they make a U-turn to either avoid sitting at the light at San Tomas Expressway. They come from that direction, Frank, perfect. They come over to Harold Avenue, and instead of turning left down Harold, they're literally making a big wide U-turn. I don't know, I don't follow them, but maybe they're going down San Tomas. It's just, you never know if you're even trying to turn right, if that person's going to look like they're going to turn left, make a U-turn right on the side of you. So I'll just cut it short by saying, not for a drive-through. It's going to make all of our lives on Harold Avenue just not what we want. And we put our heart and soul. This is a beautiful neighborhood, beautiful people. There's 7 beautiful neighborhoods here that we're all very close. 253 houses, 180 of us know each other. We're just really a very close-knit community. So I appreciate the help, and I'm going to let you go to the next person. It's probably going to be Tracy down the line in really, really trying to help us solve this problem to mitigate the traffic. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Cindy. You actually gave me some interesting information that I had not heard before, so thank you for that.
And feel free, I can reach out to you, Frank. I'd love to do that in the future. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chuck Packer?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me, Frank?
I can, thank you.
Okay, so my wife, Joan, who's here with me, we've lived here 31 years. Over on Doug Lane Avenue. And I echo a lot of the comments that have been said already, but I want to highlight what was said, I believe, by Marcella. Over the last 5-10 years, what we've seen is a very large increase in the number of families with young children in this SOFNA area. There's always, as people say, there are always people out every day walking their children, their dogs, their elderly parents. This is a very pedestrian friendly neighborhood, very quiet neighborhood. And all of the streets that feed off of Stevens Creek have become pass-throughs for people looking for a shortcut from Stevens Creek over to Prune Ridge. And we've worked with the city on this for many years. For various different traffic mitigation things when they built when they were expanding Valley Fair and things like that. Something that hasn't been mentioned yet, though, is there is no stoplight at the north end of Prune Ridge where it hits, north end of Harold where it hits Prune Ridge. The terminus is directly your catty corner to a fire station. And if you're trying to turn left, which is what the people are going to want to do to get over to San Tomas, it's blind at that corner to oncoming traffic. The people coming from Saratoga, the Lucky Supermarket, all along that strip, because of the parking on the south side of Prune Ridge, that corner is blind most of the time. So just as Cindy was talking about the number of accidents, you're going to see a whole lot more accidents as a result of increasing the traffic. Potentially, that's right. That's right. I should mitigate that. Potentially. So what I wanted to mention was I question the trip count, and I would suggest that you do a full traffic study. The entry onto Stevens Creek, while I agree with my neighbors that that's preferable to the entry and exit onto Harold, I think all that's really going to do is cause backed up traffic further to the east, thereby blocking the oncoming traffic at Cypress and the other streets. As it is now, my wife could better address it, but as it is now, in the morning, the traffic heading west on Stevens Creek, turning north onto San Tomas is a mess. Yeah, on Stevens Creek, turning right onto San Tomas is a mess. And all this is going to do is add to that mess. You've indicated on the drawings that the entry from Stevens Creek into the site is entry only, not exit. We all know how that works. There's no way to force somebody not to exit. So then you're going to have somebody trying to get out onto Stevens Creek. That will block the car trying to get in from Stevens Creek. And that will further back up the traffic coming out that way. And I agree that having traffic pull out of on the Harold side, going right north on Harold, will be disastrous with the daycare and the neighborhood there. So, I know we're not going to stop Starbucks from coming, and that's not my intention, but I would like to see it as a non-drive-through. I think there are better uses for that space.
And I'm his wife, I'm Joan, and I would like to add that I move toward Lawrence Expressway when I go to work off of Doug Lane. And if I were to drive on Stevens Creek Boulevard to Lawrence Expressway, I am 4 miles from work. It takes 50 minutes on Stevens Creek Boulevard to get there. I have timed it. I've been there 8 years, 50 minutes without a Starbucks. The location of this Starbucks is so close to the Saratoga Avenue, Stevens Creek Boulevard. That's my main issue. I think it would be lovely to have a coffee house there, neighbors gather, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think so close to an already congested corner is the answer. Today, I also go maybe twice a week. I shop at a grocery store that's on Stevens Creek and Lawrence Expressway. I counted a
Uh-oh. Joan, I think we lost you. Oh, there you are.
Hello. I think that, I think you said something like 24 more cars in the morning because it's 48 hits, right? In and out. Is that what you said? Yeah. So if there's 24 more cars added to the congestion that backs up, by the way, to what's the name of it? Cypress Avenue. So if I'm going on to Stevens Creek Boulevard from Cypress, where Jack in the Box is, the cars are backed up in the morning. And that's, is that Tyler? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Tyler Avenue. Tyler Avenue. The cars are parked there waiting to go on to San Tomas Expressway on
Stevens Creek,
Boulevard.
westbound traffic is
Westbound
congested.
traffic is backed up to Tyler Avenue. That's no joke. I've done it on a Monday. I've done it on a Friday. So, you know, why Starbucks would want to squeeze themselves right in an intersection that is already backed up. So they're going to have unhappy customers. So say you have them going in on Stevens Creek Boulevard and exiting on Stevens Creek Boulevard. So the people going in and exiting, they're going to be angry, right? I mean, they are. They're going to be pissed off. They're waiting and waiting and waiting. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. And I know it's nice and slow. I went to Starbucks on Saratoga and Prairie Ridge this afternoon, 3 customers. Fantastic. But you know what? The traffic going in the opposite direction was also backed up. I'm telling you, 11 cars at 3 in the afternoon to cross going toward Lawrence Expressway. What direction is that?
West.
West, going west. 11 cars at 3 in the afternoon on the corner of San Tomas and Stevens Creek Boulevard.
Stop.
2 red lights I waited to cross the street. And now you want to add I don't think it's a smart location. I would love to walk there, but drive through on Stevens Creek or Harold. And as far as the pedestrian traffic on Harold, I'm not going to repeat everyone else has said because I think they've articulated it really well. It's not a smart move. It's a bad idea. We've already had accidents. In fact, I think the city, regardless of Starbucks, should be putting in some kind of barrier on that corner of Harold and Stevens Creek, like such as the barrier that exists on Hamilton in Campbell, on Hamilton, where the Elephant Bar and the Pandera and Kohl's used to be, right off of the intersection of 17 and Hamilton Avenue. They put a barrier so that people couldn't drive through the neighborhood. I think Harold kind of deserves that because this is a neighborhood. We've been here 33 years, walking every day, all day. I welcome the preschool that's there. It was a nice addition to the community. Happy children with their mothers in the morning. It's fantastic. So Harold Avenue is aside, that corner is not a good place for a drive-through.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. I guess I get what you're trying to say. I'm gonna move on now, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Tracy? Tracy Johnson?
Yes.
There we go.
This is Tracy Johnson. I live on Bel Air Drive towards Cecil. I've been in the neighborhood for a little over 20 years. And like Cindy said, I've worked with the South of Forest Neighborhood Association to improve the neighborhood and our relationship to the city and the businesses that are our neighbors. So I'm very concerned about, as people have already talked about, the traffic. So what I see is San Tomas is a major artery that goes all the way from Highway 17, 880 over near Campbell, all the way up into the tech areas of Santa Clara, carries a lot of northbound traffic in the morning. And yeah, people make the right turn, like Cindy mentioned, off heading north on San Tomas. They turn right heading east on Stevens Creek Boulevard. So yeah, if you want to put your cursor a little further down, you can follow. Yes, right there. They come there. There's a place there. There's no light there. There's a place to queue up 2, maybe 3 cars to turn left there onto Harold. And then they come flying down Harold all the way to Prune Ridge. So if you and Chuck talked about eloquently about that very dangerous left turn. It's blind. You can't see making that left turn. There's a lot of cars parked on the street there because there's apartments in the area. There's apartments along Sutter there too. I personally, I used to work west of my home at Cupertino High School. I would travel down Stevens Creek and Prune Ridge, but I was doing it at like 6:45 in the morning, so I didn't encounter these traffic problems that early in the morning. But I never I do not turn left from Harold onto Prune Ridge. I just don't do it. I go down my street, I go to Cypress, I go down to the light at Cypress, and then I turn left at Prune Ridge. I was almost hit like 3 times in that location by in front of the fire station, so I just don't do it ever. So the other, so yes, and I've seen the cars backing up and they do cross the keep clear area. And yes, I also question this. I don't know if the traffic study was just looking at traffic on Harold or if it was actually looking at traffic on Stevens Creek or not. Something that has not been mentioned is that we get a huge amount of backup traffic on the east side from Valley Fair, Santana Row. So between 8 and at Christmas season, so starting about now, it'll start getting worse. But I think anyone in the neighborhood could attest to me, nobody goes out to Stevens Creek between November 15th and probably January 7th, because we go out Prune Ridge and over to Bascom to get onto the freeway, or we go down to Saratoga Avenue to access the freeway. No one accesses the freeway at 880 and Stevens Creek because you can't, the traffic will literally back up between heading east between San Tomas and Valley Fair. People will start trying to approach the mall from Saratoga Avenue because there's a freeway interchange on Saratoga Avenue. So they'll come east from Saratoga Avenue to try to get to the mall. And so the traffic for at least about a month to 5 weeks will back up from, like San Tomas all the way over to the Valley Fair Mall. Also one, it's not good for the neighborhood. 2, I don't think Starbucks is going to be happy with this location because people are going to get frustrated and they're not going to use the drive-through if they can't access it and get in and out of there. I also think if people can't make a left turn, the commuters coming to the Starbucks, if they can't make that left turn onto Harold, because it's congested because there's traffic right there from just neighborhood traffic and the Starbucks itself, they're going to continue down to Cypress, which has a light and has a good queue lane to turn left. So right there. So they'll turn left on Cypress. They'll come down to Forest. They'll make a left turn on right there. Also at that go back to that intersection at Forest, and right there is a bus stop there, a public school bus stop just to the left of that corner. So we do have, I'm not sure if that's like at 8:15 or 8 o'clock or so, the bus stops there. So they'll come down there, they'll make left, and they'll make a left turn onto Harold to approach the driveways that you've drawn out that face to Harold. And they'll also come down. So they'll be fishing around looking for least path of resistance to try to get that drive-through. I do know there are people that do not want to get out of their car and they do prefer the drive-through. So even though if it's a traffic mess, they might prefer to sit in their car rather than go to the Starbucks at 200 Saratoga Avenue. So if you move your map over to the little bit to the right so we can see Prune Ridge Shopping Center. So right there, okay, that's the existing Starbucks at 200. That is in a triangle configuration. It's surrounded by 4 lanes. So I would like to, Starbucks corporate could consider using that existing location and turning it into a drive-through. When you're heading north on San Tomas Expressway, if you turned right onto Saratoga Avenue to access that Starbucks, if you zoom in on that, you'll see the turn lane there to access the shopping center holds at least 8 cars.
We just unfortunately
that's the resolution you have. Okay, so that turn lane will hold about 8 cars. There's generally, I don't know what the traffic northbound on Saratoga is that time of day, but whenever I've been over there, it's not been bad. But someone else can fill me in on that. There's a lot of a large parking lot in front of that existing Starbucks location. So maybe that Starbucks could be converted into a drive-through. Or you could actually probably build a new Starbucks out in the front of that, so adjacent to the Saratoga Avenue side of that parking lot. The north corner of that triangle currently has, I think there's a gas station there. There's a drive-through Carl's Jr. already there. There's a Citibank there, I think, that also has a drive-through. There's passages through this parking lot is I find it easy and safe to navigate. There's like kind of roadway. There's kind of a faint white line up on part of that by the Carl's Jr., where cars can, like a roadway through the parking lot. So cars coming off of Prune Ridge heading eastbound could also access the Starbucks pretty safely, I believe. And then again, you have 4-lane roads and turn lanes and signal lights at all these corners of that triangle. So I think it would be safer, and you could and it could withstand. It'd be safer and more convenient for your customers, so more customers could move in and out of there. You'd make more money, they would be safer, and you wouldn't, the neighborhood wouldn't exacerbate the cut-through problem that already exists in the neighborhood.
Tracy, I did have a question for you. You seemed pretty.
Yeah.
This alley, just out of curiosity, is there
Yeah,
a
it's bizarre.
history to that of why it's?
My only thing I can, okay, so the alley is kind of interesting. The homes that back up to that alley, they all have an easement right. So the last guy who owned that building, which is currently a Lazy Boy store, he tried to get rid of, he fought actually with our friend Arlene Norsworthy, who used to live there before she passed. She spent thousands of dollars to preserve easement to the alley. So the alley has to stay there. That large building that you got your hand on right now, that's currently the Lazy Boy. Originally, that was a grocery store in the old days. So I had parking on the right side, on the east side, and it had a parking lot on the left side, which is now created a Hertz car rental place there, which is now actually vacant. They're looking for a new tenant. It says for lease out there. The alley, so I guess the alley, because of maybe those easement rights, need to stay there. One thing, yes, it's odd, and the elevation change at the end of the alley.
Yeah, I saw that.
You guys are looking at is like 4 or 5 feet or something. Unfortunately, that little nook where your hand is right now, we tend to get a collection of the unhoused that start living there and got dumping garbage there.
Yeah,
I
noticed that.
contact the city on that. I'd say about every quarter I contact the city and have them contact the owner to clean that out.
Well, the only reason I asked that, I'm gonna actually, if you don't mind, move on. I think because other people want to speak, but I start to think about to your point of coming down here and making a left. Does this open up and serve this property as a potential? I don't know the answer, and there's probably a lot of stuff that goes with it, but I just thought,
I don't know if it's really
worth it
enough. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I'm happy to meet with you and talk to you further about this if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Abu,
Yeah.
there you are. Here you are.
Hey, this is Abu. Actually, so I'm not part of the neighborhood, but I have a generic objection with the Starbucks policy. They are allowing the genocide of millions of innocent people in Palestine.
We're not going to talk about that.
No,
sir.
no, you have to listen. You
I
have to
don't.
listen. Yeah. You are allowing.
I'm sorry, we're going on to Betsy. Betsy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I am not a neighbor either. I do live in Anthony Becker's council district, and I do bike this way from time to time, but closer to Homestead than to Stevens Creek. This Starbucks isn't really what I want in my city, and I don't think it's in keeping with the higher level objectives of Stevens Creek. I know Starbucks has a reputation for being able to have shops across the street from each other, but there are several other Starbucks stores very near here, including the cafe in the Barnes & Noble practically across the street here sells Starbucks stuff. And at some point, it seems to me that the market is going to be saturated in this area. And if a new store thrives, it's going to be by drawing customers away from the others. I don't really buy the 24 more cars per day or per morning claim. The fact that you think you need a double drive-through here suggests that there will be a lot of cars, and kind of by definition, they will all be idling. Only a minority of our cars are electric so far, and the conversion is continuing to be a long process. Some people have talked about traffic congestion on Stevens Creek, and the way that traffic congestion works, even if it is only 24 more cars per morning or whatever it is, a small increase in the total number of cars can cause a large increase in the delay of going along a corridor. Drive-throughs encourage more car traffic, which, besides increasing congestion and air pollution in general, makes things less safe and less pleasant for anyone outside of a car. I see that you're creating at least 5 conflict points here for bikes and pedestrians. And I agree with, I think it was Chuck, you should expect some drivers to try to exit straight onto Stevens Creek, even if it's marked that you're not supposed to do that. So you can make that 6 conflict points. I'm wondering if you have thought at all of customers coming on foot or by bikes, and if you have thought of what those motions would look like, and even where bike racks would go, if you thought about bike parking at all.
We did. Yeah, we do have bike in
okay.
the plan. Yeah, yeah.
I don't see that, but and about 1/6 of this site is as planned is building, and the rest is basically for cars. The building being removed, as far as I can tell, housed half a dozen different small independent businesses, which, if I had to guess, struggled to find affordable new quarters or to take their customers with them if they stayed in business at all. The new store will never again house an accountant or a nail salon. It's getting smaller and more specialized, whether or not this drive-through thrives. And small businesses need affordable space too. My other environmental concern on this one, takeout food and drinks almost always come wrapped in single-use trash, which is a problem even if it's not getting littered. I know that's not unique to this location, but it's certainly something. I'm not a Starbucks fan. I have picked up more Starbucks cups on the street than I have ever partaken of by a long shot. And finally, just encouraging everyone to stay in their cars all the time is the opposite of building communities or creating a sense of place. And there's just nothing unique or local or special about yet another Starbucks.
Okay. Thank you. I do think a traffic study is probably on order just to deal with some of the comments. To your point, I mean, we do want to make sure it operates to get our customers in and out as well. So I would agree with that. Esmeralda?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. I don't live in the neighborhood, but I do work at the business that is next door to the daycare preschool that is there. So I have the unique ability to, on occasion, see the traffic that does speed down Harold. Unfortunately, with the daycare where it is, sometimes even that makes it difficult for our employees to pull into our parking lot, which is behind our building. But we manage it. We work with them. It's a daycare, so everyone just has to practice some patience. So our concern also, not to belabor the other talking points that everyone had, is the same. We're just concerned as a business that tries to be respectful of the neighborhood that we are in, of the traffic that it will create, especially having an in and out at Harold. And as much as you can put up signs that say no right turn, left turn only, you're still going to get those individuals that are running late or just are impatient and are going to go ahead and make that right turn and zoom down the neighborhood. So again, we're surprised that a Starbucks is going so close to the one that is on Saratoga, but if we had a choice, we would definitely not want or vote for the drive-through. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Esmeralda. Mark?
Hi. Actually, I'm going to let my wife Kathy speak.
Okay.
Hi. We've lived in this neighborhood for 35 years, and we live on Sutter, which is in between Cypress and Herald. And so during these last 35 years, I would agree with everything that everyone has been saying about how dangerous Herald is when you're turning from Prune Ridge to Herald, or even leaving Herald onto Stevens Creek. I have stopped using Herald completely because I've had too many close calls with someone coming in the opposite direction, and I can't see them coming, and they're barreling down Herald towards Prune Ridge, and I've actually almost had head-ons there. So having more traffic coming down Herald is a very big concern. I just don't know how this would work. And we walk in this neighborhood every day, and going down Herald is part of our walking path. And we walk all the way down to Stevens Creek and then go back down Cypress to get back and go through all of the streets. If that Starbucks has those, the double drive-through, we won't be able to use that street anymore because just there's going to be way too much traffic. But we do agree with everything else that everyone else has been saying. The one thing that no one has mentioned is a concern of mine, and that is about the health of the neighbors living on Herald when you have so many cars sitting in the drive-through idling, and all the exhaust and fumes are going down that street. And especially for those young kids that are in the preschool or daycare, that could really have a negative impact on their health, as well as other neighbors that live on Herald that may have respiratory problems, because this is going to be a constant flow of traffic, through Starbucks. I don't know how many hours a day they're going to be open, but we all know that everybody drinks coffee morning, noon, and night, and not just during the early morning hours. And I do agree, especially coming down Herald to Stevens Creek, that intersection is really hard to get in and out of. And there are a lot of people that make U-turns there. So do you have anything else?
Yeah, this is Mark. And I would again agree that the ingress egress on from Stevens Creek, to Herald and vice versa, it's nuts. Most mornings you're having to give a look to other drivers and hope that they are going to be kind that morning and let you in. And that's it's a nice neighborly thing to do, but everyone knows that people have places to go and patience is short. And I too have seen accidents in that area of Stevens Creek and Herald. And the most recent one only a few days ago looked very severe and looked to be a perfect example of why you shouldn't have any more additional traffic in that area without some kind of mitigation efforts. The idea that you're putting drive-throughs into restaurants, and I actually am in the restaurant business and in chain restaurants, and I know that they're quite profitable. Just about any major fast food chain, which I would include Starbucks in, looks to that as the future. But it is not the future in terms of neighborhoods. When Starbucks was originally conceived, it did very much hit the heart of being part of a community. This would not be part of a community. It makes it more of a transit community. And for that reason, I wouldn't want to see the double drive-through there. Frankly, I'd like to see some businesses there. I don't want to see, shuttered businesses along there, for the obvious reasons that it just looks like decay. But I think there's some happy medium that needs to be met. And I think the first step would be stepping away from the drive-through concept, or at least moving it down someplace else away from that location. And I suspect, I don't know the Starbucks situation, if they bought that or they've got a real estate investment trust that's bought it, or if they can walk away or not. But this might be one they need to walk away from.
Okay. Thank you much. Moving on, I'm gonna probably pronounce this wrong. Anuja?
Hi, yeah, you pronounce it right. It's
Oh.
Anuja. Quickly about me, we just bought our house on Herald, next to actually Shree's house. Me and my husband, this is our first house, and we are actually hoping to raise our family here. There is this lovely play school right next to us. There is a lovely park right on Harold and Forest. So it's just the neighborhood, it just felt really nice. One of the concerns that people have already mentioned is that the cars drive here at pretty high speed over the speed limit. The other concerns that people have also mentioned about the traffic and the accidents that keep coming up. When I was reviewing the Starbucks, the plan that you have created, it seemed to me that no effort actually has been put in ensuring that this new Starbucks doesn't affect the lives of people living here by increasing their traffic. Putting both the entry and exit on Harold. I'm sorry, but what were you thinking? That makes absolutely no sense to be in this community. I know you have mentioned about a full traffic study. Yeah, please go ahead with that and do let us know how we can support that. And on the flip side, what I would love to hear from you is, how can we ensure that this new Starbucks does not increase the traffic on Harold? What can I do? Can you help me with that?
Well, I think that's part of this process of going through the city for the project. Ultimately, we've got to go before the planning commission for, as they say, a vote, and what we're trying to do, at least at this stage, is listen to all the concerns. Obviously, it's coming down to traffic and some noise and some air quality. With what's interesting to me is it appears that there's somewhat of a speeding problem going on today on Harold, because it seems to be a cut through right from Stevens Creek up to Prune Ridge. But that's the kind of information we want to know, so that we can look at what could be done to have, keep the neighborhood the way it is, as well as basically you have an empty building right there, then it's trying to be used for something, and Starbucks would like to go there, whether they go there or not. That's what this process is about. Does that
I
make
hear
sense?
you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yes, this process is about, but what I'm saying is that in the initial plan that you have shared, there is no mention of how these concerns would be taken care of. Like, how was traffic or the noise or the air pollution was not even mentioned in the plan. It seems to me like it's all about how do we get most customers here in that plan, rather than, okay, how do we actually find a collaborative plan for the community and the Starbucks to coexist? And if that's not a concern, then I don't think a Starbucks should exist here. Honestly, I don't think a Starbucks should exist here either way. There is already a coffee shop in front. I'm a coffee lover. I walk there all the time. There is a coffee one other place just pretty close by as well. So I don't really see the point of bringing one here. So if we have to choose, let's not put it. But either way, if you're creating a plan, please don't make this an afterthought of how the community should not be affected because of this. It's definitely not worth the risk of accidents and fatalities here.
Understood. And agreed. So.
So can you please help me understand why this
Well,
was an
no,
afterthought?
that's not the purpose for tonight. The purpose for tonight is just to be listening to concerns and comments and issues. So that's where we're at.
So what would be the next step on this concern?
The next step will be, we're gonna have to relook at everything we heard tonight, get with the city. You know, you may want to contact Steve Lee, the planner, directly if you have other, if you want to know more about that. I don't know what exactly we're going to do with the city, and so I'm going to leave a little bit up to that to Steve, but certainly there's going to be more dialogue, whether that's at the planning commission or we have another neighborhood meeting. That's unbeknownst to me at this time, but that's kind of what I see. Just taking all this back and seeing what we can do the traffic study and be able to address these concerns that we're hearing tonight.
Got it. I just want to ensure that this does not fall on deaf ears. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle? Hello, Michelle? It looks like you're muted. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Michelle, I'll come back to you. Liana, did I get that right? Liana, there we go.
It's Leanna, and actually she's my wife, so I'm
Okay.
using her account. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I got a couple of points to make about the Starbucks coming up. I live directly across the street. I'm on 25 Herald, and I just want to thank all the neighbors that are on the call. I think they've been raising great points, mainly about the traffic. I want to say that the first all neighbors to my left all have young children. It's not just the kindergarten there. We all have small families with like 2-3 children each. And it's just, I don't feel like the Starbucks is for the neighborhood. I'm looking at the Google Maps, and within a 2-mile radius, there's 10 Starbucks. So it just does not make sense to have that here, especially with a drive-through. The traffic is already crazy. I got people pulling into my driveway constantly, making U-turns to exit out to Stevens Creek, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I moved here to have a bit of space. It's a quiet neighborhood. It is lovely, the people here. To all my neighbors, I just want to say, if you ever want to have coffee, come down. I'll make you a cup. We don't need another Starbucks. If so, I don't see why they shouldn't make a drive-through over on Saratoga. There's one on Santana Row. This is the one directly across the street at the Barnes and Noble. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. It's just, thank you for your time, I guess.
Thank you. Could I get your name just so I know what your name is?
Yes, my name is Fabian.
Thank you.
Fabian.
Thank you much. Martin?
Hey, thanks, Frank. Just not to belabor the point, I know we're kind of close to time here, but yeah, I'm also a resident on Harold. I've been here for about 10 years. I've got a young son. You know, we exit onto Stevens Creek in the mornings for school, and already it's, you know, as everyone's mentioned, the traffic is already an existing issue. You know, we bike in the neighborhood, we take our dog out for a walk, we walk around there frequently, as do many of the neighbors have spoken, and just very concerned about the traffic. So, you know, everybody's kind of already made a lot of the good points and the logistics of it all. In general, it's already a very troublesome, dangerous kind of pass through for speeding traffic, and, you know, unrealistic. You know, I understand, you know, commercial real estate these days, there's not a lot of mom and pop shops are going to be buying these types of properties and moving in. So, you know, I am realistic and open to, you know, investment in the area to kind of maintain values, etc. That's welcomed. I do object to the drive-through aspect of it and the increased risk that poses, and definitely would like to have the consideration of the traffic measures that have been mentioned, whether that's stop signs, speed bumps, whatever it is, that can kind of control or you know, throttle the throughput and the speed, at least to kind of maintain the safety or improve the safety. Actually, would be welcome, and in the event that this does go ahead. So that was all. Just adding on to a lot of the comments already, but as a resident on Harold, just wanted to voice that as well.
Thank you for that. Kurt?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great, thanks. Appreciate it. So I just wanted to ask, is the council member on the call? Is Councilmember Becker on this call too?
He spoke earlier and it looks like he's still on.
Okay, all right. I'm just looking to confirm that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So a couple things I'd like to just mention. I applaud what Betsy said about placemaking. Bravo, Betsy. That was great. I was part of the Stevens Creek Advisory Group, which was the San Jose, which is the south, just across the street, the entire stretch from right around Lawrence to Winchester. And part of the advisory group, I co-chaired with Bob Levy, who I don't know if Bob's on the call. I hope he is. But part of the plan that was put forth there, the Urban Village process, was no drive-throughs. And even the In-N-Out one, like literally In-N-Out, the burger place, is trying to go up against that now. And so far it's been holding because drive-throughs in general do not create a sense of place. As people said, it creates a lot of auto traffic, and that's not the message. And for someone that mentioned about traffic cutting through, I think that's going to be mitigated somewhat with the VTA, Caltrans, Tisch exit off of 280. A lot of mall traffic is going to get diverted there. So I think that's going to help this neighborhood a lot. Not that that has anything to do with the validity of Starbucks drive-through, which I think it's in addition to. Either way, the Starbucks drive-through I don't think makes sense, and I hope is not supported at the community and the council level. So Starbucks, I hope hearing that as well. But there are existing drive-through examples that Starbucks has over on El Camino and Lawrence. That's inside of a parking lot, so it's not directly connected to an artery. I think connecting to Stevens Creek is a huge mistake. And hearing all the Harold things, I came in late and I apologize, so I don't know where the 24 cars an hour came from. But if that's all the cars you're looking for, I don't even see how that's a business model in today's world. I run a small business too, and you know, if we only had 24 customers in an hour, we would not be able to keep our doors open. So I don't see how that is real, especially if it's drive-through.
Well, that again, just to I guess confirm what I said, that's if you re-tenanted the existing building and they did the comparison, it's not going from the vacant building today, obviously, but if that building was re-tenanted with users, then that's the delta.
I see. So that has like X number of, so it's X plus 24, N plus 24 is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for, like I said, I missed that. So I appreciate the clarification on that.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say that you expect a fair amount of auto traffic if it's a drive-through. Like that's the purpose of
we
it,
do. I mean,
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
We to be fair, the traffic engineer did in that same memo that's on the city website that I was showing up earlier. This memo, which they also did a queuing analysis. You know, the queuing says the most we've ever seen is the 16, that's what we have in the queue. So, just-
Gotcha. And
yeah.
and again, I'm not trying to create. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do it based on business case. I'm just saying I was startled when I heard 24. So thank you for confirming that wasn't the case. That makes a lot more sense. But there's something that you mentioned. It's like, I don't know what the next steps are. I think somebody asked the question. I would just offer a suggestion as a community activist and supporter of land use and, proper, good choices on land use and urban placemaking, is that this be one of many conversations with the community, and that that I would ask that Starbucks be open to considering a different use than just a drive-through, working with the community on what that might look like as a supported project rather than all this resistance that you're hearing. Like, what can we do that encourages us to want to have this in our community versus not want to have it in our community? You've heard what we don't want, but to be open to modify these plans substantially and maybe completely, even to the point of maybe even selling land back to the community, if that's what it takes, so you guys make a profit. Like, I would put everything on the table, but my request is to work with the community from the beginning, just like you're doing now, which I 100% appreciate. But the next stop is definitely not the Planning Commission. Hopefully your next stop is with this community again, because an hour and a half is clearly not enough time to meet, and in person usually a little bit better. But I appreciate you doing this now. I'm a land use advocate and smart growth, and I love commercial uses, creative ones. Maybe there's a way to put some residential on top of that, so you do a little mixed use or something like that. Let's be a little more creative with our spaces. I deeply feel, as a small business owner, that losing 6 storefronts is not great. Like, we've already lost them, frankly. So I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying that's a bummer. And by you changing and getting rid of them, it permanently changes the landscape. And so that's just something that the community is telling you is important to us. And we want to, we want to support business just as much. Everybody's business pays the bills. That's what pays the bills in cities. But how can we do so in a thoughtful way that respects safety, placemaking, engagement with the community, not just something that generates profit for Starbucks, but that is profitable as an asset to this community? How can we do that? Right now, what you have, I hope you're hearing, is not that. And I don't know what that is, but we know what it's not. And I'm hoping that you're not hearing this as, well, these guys just see traffic and parking and screw that. Everybody says that. But this is, hopefully we've gone beyond we're always going to have problems with traffic. We're always going to have parking and always going to have safety concerns. Given all that as a given, how can we support change and growth in this community that supports everybody's goals, including profitability for Starbucks or whoever owns the property? That would be my request. And Tracy is the great contact as the board president or on the board of SOFNA. And I support engagement as much as possible. We're doing this in Corey as well. There's other things happening in Winchester. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just to close with, there's other developments going on in the community, and taking a proactive approach is always the best way. So I thank you for doing that.
Yeah, my general approach is to find that win-win-win, right, for all parties. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to whenever the next meeting is. And again, hopefully a visioning meeting with you with supportive community. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Abu?
Yeah, Frank, it's me again.
Yeah.
So I will say, tell your company to stop supporting genocide by funding Israel.
We're not talking about that.
That's the
Thank you, Steve. Adriana. Sorry about this. Adriana.
Hi, thanks for choosing me. This is Adrina.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
I am a resident on Forest Avenue, and my husband and I have been living here for about 25 years. And our biggest concern, quite frankly, is what everybody else has said. We actually have not only a young community, but we also have a senior community. And that when you do your traffic study, I hope that you do it throughout various times of the day. And you'll see that there's a lot of foot traffic and activity throughout the community, not only on Forest, but also on Harold. And with that being said, you know, we're starting to see more and more traffic, especially with the new housing development there on Winchester Avenue, which people are already coming down Forest and trying to parallel Stevens Creek. And with Starbucks coming in, we can really see that folks are going to start cutting through the neighborhood. So you'll see that also on Tyler, on Harold, and then on Forest. So with that being said, I just would hope that when you expand or take this traffic censorship, that you really expand it throughout the community, not just on Harold and Stevens Creek and Prune Ridge, but throughout this whole neighborhood that you have between Winchester and San Tomas. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment at looking at not just this couple of streets, but you know, what does it mean impact wise to this neighborhood as a whole, right? From all the streets, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's really, like I said, it's really critical because we know times of day when Starbucks is probably most used, and that's probably in the morning. However, again, you know, at the end of the day, this community is very active. And matter of fact, I have a lot of people that come in the neighborhood and workers and all of that. And they always say, gosh, you know, you have a very active community, and it's actually true. So anyway, so thanks for letting me share. And then my husband is actually here as well. I want to pass the baton to him.
And I would just add that in the mornings, Monday through Friday, from San Tomas back to Tyler, where the Jack in the Box is, it's bumper to bumper traffic. So all of the people trying to get to Starbucks are going to come through the neighborhood.
So that's all we have to share. We want to be good neighbors and not only support Harold, but also the whole entire community. So thanks for listening. And we hope that we can hear the results and that you would keep us informed so that we can help advocate for the whole entire community in itself.
Sounds good. Definitely will. Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, this is Tom and Michelle Palermo.
Hello.
Neighbors across the street from Steve and Rex down the street. We live on Forest Avenue for the last a lot of years. I was a tenant at the Paris building, the actual building that we were talking about, for about 10 years.
Okay.
It was hard getting in and out of there for 10 years, and I haven't been in there probably in about 7 years. So, but it was hard getting in and out of there. Long story short, when I leave my house, and I live right across the street from Brookside, when I leave my house, I cannot go up Brookside because there's no way I can get out. Absolutely no way. If I was smart, I'd probably go up to Cypress and use the light to come out, but it's still traffic. Terry, I'd probably have to go clear to Henry to be able to actually get out without any traffic, because it backs up clear past the Lexus dealership. And I know that because I walk to Santana Row every morning and get my coffee, and I come up Stevens Creek. The little walkway or the driveway that you were looking at behind the old grocery store and the Lazy Boy is about, it's a one lane in, probably a 1 lane out. So that's definitely out of it. There's so much traffic on Stevens Creek. If I'm the fourth person coming southbound on Harold to come out, I could be there for 10 minutes. And sometimes it's the people driving because they're timid. Sometimes it's the people making the U-turns, and so it cuts them off. But to sit at a corner for 10 minutes to try and get out of that area is ridiculous. And I can only say, not just the drive-through, but having a Starbucks there is a huge mistake. And I like coffee as good as anybody, and sure, I'd like to walk up to a coffee house, not particularly that one, but and have a nice cup of coffee and sit with some of the people in the area, because I've seen every one of these people that are on the call tonight, and everybody, it's a solid community. Everybody talks. I see all the dog walkers. It's just I don't think it's the right place for a Starbucks. and absolutely not the right place for a drive-through.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Yep.
Matt? Matt, you're on mute if you, there we go. Matt? Matt? All right, I'll come back to you. Rob?
Yeah, thanks for giving me another chance. Let me give you just a little bit about neighborhood history as it concerns Starbucks, which is more of a general overall view of what Starbucks does to a neighborhood.
And Rob, before you start going, I'm gonna just say you're gonna be the last speaker, just so you know that.
Okay, I'll be real quick then. So Meridian Corners is the corner of Stevens Creek and Saratoga Avenue, and I've lived in the neighborhood 68 years. And there's a McDonald's there. So years ago, they opened the factory, this coffee factory, which was our neighborhood coffee place. And it was fabulous. It was a great atmosphere, great people. There were 8 to 10 people in line, every morning. It was a great gathering place in the neighborhood. The Starbucks at Saratoga Avenue and Stevens Creek opened up, the one that people have been talking about, they've been showing and asking that why can't that be the drive-through? That opened up, it destroyed that small family-owned business. And quite frankly, that's what Starbucks does. We probably don't care about it. I'm sure Starbucks doesn't care about it, but that's what happens. There's another little coffee house down Stevens Creek, at Stevens Creek, to the east. It's on the north side. Who knows what'll happen to that little coffee shop, which is a bustling business right now, if they put another Starbucks in. So it really, like people have been saying, it really doesn't create a sense of community. It just destroys small businesses, and as anybody knows that studied history, when you get rid of small businesses and you eliminate the middle class, that's the end of our society, and that's where we're headed. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a wrong location for Starbucks. We would rather not have it in the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, that's everyone to speak. I will encourage, you can contact me, you can contact Steve. I'm gonna put this up again. It's on the flyer. This is me, project contact Frank Coda. There's my email address and my phone number. Steve Lee, he's the senior planner with the city. He's been on the call listening as well. And again, I just wanted to close that I thank everyone for all their comments. I have a much better feel for kind of the issues at hand, and we're gonna go back and figure out what we can do, probably look at the traffic study. I'll need to work with the city traffic engineer on the scope and go from there. So Steve, did you want to say anything to close?
Yeah, thanks, Frank. No, I don't have anything else to add. The next steps I heard somebody asked is really up to you, Frank, and your team, what you do with the comments made here tonight, and how you want to resubmit or submit and make changes to that, and and we can go back to the community again with that change before we go to the planning commissions, if you wanted to feedback.
Sounds good. I've got to figure it out myself. There's a lot that came up, and so I've got to put some thinking caps on and go back to the team and go from there. So with that, I will say, everyone, good night. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be talking in the future. Bye now.